Hello children, once again I am here with a new video for you, that is humidity, and this is a very important topic in especially the syllabus of class 9th. Right now, humidity in general, if we talk about humidity, what does that mean? If we say if any air is humid, what is the meaning of it? Actually, children, humidity is one of the basic elements in the various, we can say, when we do the weather study of any place. So for that purpose, we take certain elements to study about the weather condition of any place. And out of all the elements what we take there, that is temperature, atmospheric pressure, humidity is also one of them, right? One of the very important elements of weather, and this is an element which influences all other elements a lot, right? That means these all are interdependent amongst each other. Now humidity, first of all, what does that mean? Humidity is actually the measure of the amount of total water vapor which is present in the air, or you can say the atmosphere. So basically, when in general we talk about humidity, that is the moisture present in the atmosphere, or we can say the amount of water vapor that is present in the atmosphere at a particular time. So that is called humidity. Now whenever it has been found that whenever temperature is higher, okay, whenever the temperature rises, that makes actually the capacity of the air to hold moisture gets higher in that case also, right? Air has got certain capacity to hold moisture. So whenever temperature rises, the capacity of air to hold moisture also rises up, and that leads to more and more evaporation, and when evaporation will be more, it will lead to more humidity in the air. Clear? So always we know that whenever the temperature rises, humidity also rises because evaporation rises. So these all are, I told you just now that these all are somewhere, these are interrelated with each other. Now when we are only, let's take this topic altogether, when we take humidity and the condensation, evaporation, precipitation, what are all these related to? Just think of it. One cycle which we have studied many times till now, which actually one of the basic cycles, you can say life-giving cycles on the earth, and that is actually water cycle. Whenever the humidity is there in the air, that means it is forming a part of the water cycle. How does it happen? Just think of it. Three main processes are forming actually they complete the cycle, water cycle. And what are these processes? Number one is evaporation. Now what is evaporation? First of all, evaporation is that when there is a water body on the earth's surface, right? From here the water gets evaporated, that means it changes into water vapor on heating, right? So that leads to evaporation. Where does it go now? The water vapor or the gaseous form of water, where does it go? It goes in the atmosphere. And when it goes in the atmosphere, so that forms a part of the entire atmosphere. In the form of gaseous state only, the water vapor is present and it forms a part of the atmosphere. And that makes, suppose evaporation has gone high, that will lead to more and more humidity in the air. And ultimately what happens? It when it rises up, suppose all this water vapor along with hot air, right? It rises up at a particular height. When it reaches, it gets cool, right? When it gets cool, it starts condensing. Water vapor in the air starts condensing, and that is called condensation. The second process, that is totally the conversion of water vapor or the gaseous state to small droplets of water or the ice crystals. So that conversion is called condensation. and then when it accumulates a lot in the at that height in the atmosphere, ultimately a time comes when it starts falling back to the earth's surface in different forms again. If it is in the form of water drops, that is rainfall, small drops of water, you can say small very fine drops of water, that is called drizzle, right? When it is in the form of snow, that is snowfall. When it is in the form of hail, that is called hailstones. So these all are actually the different forms of precipitation. That means the third process we are talking of. First one was the evaporation, number 2 condensation, and then ultimately when it comes back to the earth's surface, that process is called precipitation. Clear? Now all these three processes are somewhere, these all are dependent on the humidity. So humidity level is very important in the working of the water cycle. Now how you can say the rate of evaporation is dependent on some of the factors? What do you think? Which factors can be there over which the rate of evaporation depends? Basically, three factors are there which control the rate of evaporation. Okay, which are those factors? Number 1 is the humidity. Just now we are talking about the same. If the humidity level in the atmosphere has gone very high, right, that will lead to ultimately low rate of evaporation, right? That means the air which is present, whatever capacity it has got to hold water, that is now full, or it can have less capacity. So whatever capacity the air has got to hold moisture, according to that the evaporation continues. If now the air is full with whatever capacity it has, now it is full with that. That means it is also called in that case as saturated air. Okay, saturated means the air has got, suppose 100% total capacity of to hold moisture is now full with it, right? So that is called saturated air. And whenever saturated air is there will be no evaporation. For just that moment of time you will find evaporation becomes very less. So totally it is dependent on the humidity level. If humidity is very high, it will lead to low rate of evaporation. If humidity is less in the air, that means more capacity is still there with the air to hold moisture. And if it has got more capacity to hold moisture, naturally more and more evaporation will go on. So this is how we relate humidity with the rate of evaporation. Then the second thing is, the second factor which influences evaporation is the supply of heat, or you can say the other way, temperature. Always children, whenever the temperature is high, then only evaporation will go on at a high rate. So we can say you can take the best example in the case of the equatorial region. On the other side you can take the polar regions. In equatorial region, throughout the temperature remains very high, and so you will find always in the equatorial region the evaporation rate is very high. But as we go towards the polar region, because temperature is very low, so evaporation rate goes very low. If you just remember one thing, for evaporation what is required? Always heating is required. Okay, evaporation needs heating for the conversion of water into water drop in the gaseous form, right, in the form of water vapor. For that conversion always heating is required, the temperature is required. So that is how you can say the temperature and rate of evaporation are related with each other. High temperature, high rate of evaporation. Low temperature, low rate of evaporation. Now come to next, the winds. Winds again children, winds are also important factor, because whenever when a wind blows with a very high speed, it will take away the moisture which is present in that particular area in the air, right? And once it takes away all the moisture with it, so what will happen? That air will have more capacity now to get more and more moisture, and that will lead to more and more evaporation to go on. So whenever the winds blow, strong winds blow, that actually increases the rate of evaporation. So this is about the all the factors which influence the rate of evaporation, which ultimately supplies the moisture to the air, which is called humidity then. Okay, now let's talk about the other aspect of it. What are the different types of humidity, in what ways we can measure it? Humidity basically it can be measured in two ways. Number one is absolute humidity, the other is relative humidity. Okay, now what is absolute humidity? Absolute means in the actual humidity. Okay, that means at a particular time in the air at any place, suppose we have to measure the absolute humidity, so at that place in the air, what amount of water vapor is present at that particular moment of time, you can say that is the absolute humidity, right? At that particular time in the air, what amount of water vapor is present in actual, that is called absolute humidity of that place. Okay, and always it is measured in grams per cubic meter. Okay, grams of water vapor per cubic meter of air. Clear? And second one is relative humidity. Relative humidity is that in which you will find a ratio is there, ratio, or you can say in percentage form always it is given. Clear? And what is it now? It is simple. One side we take the absolute humidity, or we can say the actual humidity which is present in the air, right? And on the other side, the total capacity of the same air, the total capacity of it to hold moisture, right? So when we take out the percentage of the two, that is called as relative humidity. Okay, once again I am repeating, relative humidity is that in which you will find the absolute is compared with the total capacity of air to hold moisture, right? In the ratio form, when we express that, that is called as relative humidity. In the form of ratio, or you can say the percentage, right? That is called relative humidity. So in these two ways generally we measure the humidity, right? Now let's talk about the instrument which is used basically to measure the humidity, right? And what is it called? It is called as wet and dry bulb thermometer, right? As well as it is also called by another name, that is called hygrometer. Okay, and how does it work? In actual it is like this only, and two thermometers are placed over it, right, in the hygrometer, and one thermometer is just placed in normal way. That means its bulb is giving us the reading of the surrounding air. Okay, this is called dry bulb thermometer. But the second thermometer, you can see its bulb means the front part of the thermometer where we find the mercury is there. Okay, so this bulb of this wet bulb thermometer is actually inserted in a muslin cloth, or you can say cotton, right? And what is actually with the muslin cloth, it's some water we are always keeping it there. That means we keep the muslin cloth or the cotton wet. Okay, always it is moist, it is wet. Clear? Now what happens with that? Now because of the water which is present, the evaporation goes on more in that part, right? If evaporation will be more, what will happen then? Because in evaporation what is required? Temperature is required, heating is required. Okay, so that heat is being consumed for the process to go on, the conversion of water into water vapor, right? So evaporation takes some temperature, and so the result is what? In the wet bulb thermometer always the reading is lesser than the dry bulb thermometer. Okay, dry bulb thermometer basically it is kept in open, right? The bulb is kept in open. So what reading it is giving? It gives us the reading of the temperature of the surrounding air. But if we come to the next thermometer, the second thermometer is called as wet bulb thermometer. And what is so important about it? Its bulb, the front part, is actually kept in moist cloth or cotton, right? So the result is what? It leads to more and more evaporation. When it leads to more evaporation, the heat will be consumed there. Okay, so the temperature goes down in that part, and thus it shows a temperature comparatively lower than the first thermometer. Clear? So this is how the always you will find the humidity is measured with the help of this instrument called hygrometer. It is also many times called by the name dry and wet bulb thermometer. Okay, so this is how the two readings are there with us. Okay, one is from the dry bulb thermometer, the other is from the wet bulb thermometer. Now how to get an idea about the relative humidity? For that we have to understand that whenever there is, in the earlier part I have mentioned this, whenever there is the air has got the total capacity is full with the moisture, right? That means 100% humidity has reached. Clear? So what does that mean? At that moment of time evaporation will get zero. Okay, and as the humidity will get decreased, right, the evaporation will rise. Now here if you see children, whenever there is a difference between, you will find the dry and wet bulb thermometers readings, right? Two readings we are getting. Now these two readings, whenever you will find the reading, the difference between the two readings is getting more and more. Okay, you will find the relative humidity gets less. Okay, it's just inversely proportional. Clear? Once again I am repeating, whenever there is more difference between the readings of two thermometers, right? Suppose the difference is getting more and more, that will that always indicates that the relative humidity is getting less. Okay, and if the difference between the two readings get less, okay, or you can say it goes to you can say it shows the same value on both the thermometers, the same measurement is there, so that means the saturation level has reached, the relative humidity is highest, or you can say 100%. Okay, and at that moment of time no evaporation is going on. Okay, so this is how children, when the difference between hot you can say the difference between dry bulb and wet bulb thermometers is more, you will find the relative humidity will be less. Okay, if the difference becomes less, the relative humidity will be more. This is how we measure the humidity from this instrument, which is called by the name hygrometer. Okay, now let's move to the next one. Now the next part of this chapter is condensation. Okay, a little bit we discussed in the earlier part of this topic only regarding the three various you can say processes which are completing the water cycle. Out of all those processes, number one is the evaporation, number two is condensation, you can see here. Now what is condensation actually? It is just, if you have understood the evaporation, it is just opposite of evaporation. Okay, what happens? First of all, let's take evaporation on the one side. What happens in evaporation? Evaporation is simply when heating is applied, water changes into its gaseous form. Okay, or liquid changes into its gaseous form. So that is called evaporation. Now in condensation, just opposite thing happens. There it was the heating was applied, now it is cooling. Now what happens in condensation? When cooling take place, right? Now the gaseous state of that liquid or water, here we are talking of water, so let's take the example of water only. The gaseous form of water or the water vapor starts changing into small droplets of water, right? Or you can say the ice crystals. So this conversion of water vapor into water droplets or the ice crystals, that is called by the name condensation. Okay, and it always happens on cooling, right? Now for condensation also children, a few conditions are always required, right, so that condensation is going to take place properly. For that, always number one condition is that a high amount of water vapor should be there in the atmosphere, right? Water vapor content should be very high in the atmosphere, then condensation will take place. Number two, condensation nuclei is required, right? Always condensation take place around any surface, right? Any cold surface. And whenever we talk about this condensation nuclei, what is this now? These are nothing but these are the, you can say, impurities in the air, in the solid impurities or the particulate matter, right? Or the other way we say dust particles, right? Pollens, salt, smoke, ash. These are a few things which are present in the atmosphere. Okay, and when they are present, always the condensation take place around them, right? Because for condensation we need a surface always. So condensation nuclei is actually we are referring to these dust particles only, or the salt or the smoke, ash. All these things are working as condensation nuclei. Okay, so one thing we need is very high level of water vapor should be there in the atmosphere. Number two is the presence of condensation nuclei. Okay, and number three is that the temperature of the air should be lower than the dew point. Now what is dew point? Dew point is a temperature at which the air reaches to its saturation level. Okay, that means 100% of the humidity level reaches at a particular temperature. That particular temperature at which saturation level reaches, that temperature is called as dew point. Okay, so here what is mentioned? The temperature should be always below dew point, right? So when the temperature goes below dew point, what will happen now? It will lead to the conversion of water vapor into droplets of water. Okay, and that is only called by the name condensation. Clear? So for that, three conditions are required. Number one, high water vapor amount should be there in the atmosphere. Number two, the condensation nuclei should be present. And number three is that the temperature should go below dew point. Okay. Now, what are the different forms of condensation? There are basically we consider these 5 different forms of condensation. Okay, out of all these 5, what are clouds now? Clouds we can see every day, it's there in the sky, but what does that mean? Clouds are nothing but these are, children, when the small droplets of water at a greater height, when the warm air rises up, right? Along with water vapor, it reaches to a great height. Now at that height, when the temperature goes low, now these small drop, you can say the water vapor actually gets converted into small droplets of water, right? The air carries water vapor with it. Now that changes into a few small droplets of water at that height. Okay, and where does it happen? Around the small dust particles which work as the condensation nuclei. Okay, and when this happens, it leads to the formation of clouds, right? And clouds also, according to the nature of the clouds, at what height they are present, how we can find these clouds, how we can see these clouds, right? According to that, we can classify clouds into different categories. The main types of clouds we generally talk about are, number 1 is cirrus cloud, number 2 is the cumulus cloud, and number 3 is the stratus cloud. Okay, now the clouds are always the result of condensation. Okay, now just imagine for a moment when this happens at a low height, okay, close to the earth's surface. When it happens close to the earth's surface, so what will be the result of it? That is the condition when the dew and frost are formed. Now dew is what? Dew is basically when because of just a cold surface which is present in the surroundings, right? And the water vapor which is present in the air, it comes in contact with that cold surface. So it gets converted on that surface. You will find conversion of that water vapor into water droplets can be seen, right? And this is what dew we find in the early morning. ओस आप सबको पता होगा ओस क्या होता है. When we wake up in the early morning, suppose we go out, we find over the leaves and small suppose grasses and all, you'll find small droplets of water are there, right? Or on the surface of car and all, you will find small droplets are there. What is it? That is only called as dew. Okay. Or the other way we can say it, we generally call it in Hindi, it's very common, that is ओस. Okay. So ये ओस की बूंदें जो होती हैं, that is actually the result of condensation only, right? I can give you one more example. You must have seen by yourself. When you pour cold water in a glass, within a few seconds you will find over the surface of glass small droplets of water develop, right? How does it happen? It's not a magic. It is actually all the water vapor which is present in the surrounding air that comes in contact with the cold surface of glass. Okay, and when they come in contact with that cold surface, they starts getting they convert into droplets of water. Okay, from water vapor they start converting into water vapor, small droplets of water, and that leads to the formation of those the dew also, as well as over the surface of glass you can find the best example of it. Okay, so this is dew. Dew is a natural process. Okay, every morning, especially during the summer nights also, you will find early morning it is found. Frost. Now third one is frost. Frost is just like you can say dew when it happens that sometimes the temperature goes very low, even below 0 degree, right? So what happens then? Conversion of water vapor into water droplets, that is dew. When it happens that the conversion take place in the solid matter, okay, or you can say the small ice crystals are formed, that is the frost. Water vapor which is there in the atmosphere, when it comes in contact with the cold surface, right, that results into the formation of small droplets of water, that is dew. But when these small droplets of water solidify because of very low temperature, so that results into the formation of frost. Now I think it's very clear to you. Yes. Now let's talk about the other two, fog and mist. Now these are almost the same. Fog and mist are almost same. But what happens, in the winter mornings, when we go out of our homes, we generally experience this quite, it's a common thing these days, right? Fog is in the morning, it remains there for some time till the noon time it remains, and after that as the heat of the sun rays get more and more, that actually makes the fog to get vanished. What is the reason behind the formation of fog? Fog is basically when during winters, okay, the temperature of the surrounding air also gets very low. Okay, the temperature of the air gets very low. So what is the result now? The air, when it comes in actually in touch with the earth's surface, that is the earth's surface at the night time, you all know it very well, at the night time the earth gives out a radiation called terrestrial radiation. Okay, that means the heat is coming out from the earth's surface. Clear? And when the surrounding air is actually getting very cool, right, at night time it is very cold. Clear? So that makes the generally for condensation, you all know it very well, children, the condensation needs cooling. Okay, so in general, for the formation of clouds, what do we know? That the water vapor along with hot air rises up, okay, and at a particular height where it finds a low temperature, there it starts converting into droplets of water. But now that temperature which it could find at that height, now that temperature is available at lower height only, right? And this is the reason at lower height only you will find small droplets of water can be seen. And where do they get condensed? They get condensed around small dust particles, right, at lower height. So when this condensation take place, that makes the fog to develop. Okay, fogs developed because of this. Now whenever it is very dense, that is called fog. When it is less dense, or you can say the visibility is more in that case, then it is called by the name mist. Okay, in the case of fog, the visibility is very less. In the case of mist, the visibility is more. Okay, and when this fog comes in contact with the earth's surface, because temperature of the earth is more, right, because the radiation is going on now. So when this fog comes closer to the earth, right, there is the fog starts changing again, right. That means the conversion of these water droplets start changing into water vapor, and this is the reason you will not find the fog touching the surface of earth, right. There is always some gap in between, and this is because of this reason. Clear? Now let's talk about the next topic, that is precipitation. Again, the third process which we discussed in the beginning, the third process which completes the water cycle. Okay, now what is precipitation? Precipitation overall, it includes within it the rainfall, snowfall, hail, everything comes under this, right. So it is actually a process in which, suppose in the beginning evaporation took place, that has made the humidity level to go high. Okay, because of the presence of humidity, condensation has taken place. Now when after condensation the small droplets of water are there in the atmosphere, or the ice crystals are there, now they start falling back again to the earth's surface, right. When they become too heavy at that height and it's difficult to remain there anymore, so what happens then? They fall back to the ground. Okay, and this falling back to the ground in different forms is called by the name precipitation. Okay, and it is of different types again. Number 1 is rainfall, number 2 is snowfall, number 3 is drizzle, number 4 is sleet, and number 5 is hail, right. Whenever the precipitation take place in the form of drops of water, that is called rainfall. Okay, when these these drops of water become very fine, very small, right, so that changes into drizzle, very fine particles of water. When it falls, that is called drizzle. Now when the temperature of the surrounding atmosphere is low, that means whenever you will find in the mountainous area, high altitudinal area, or higher latitudes, that is near the poles, the temperature generally is very low. Okay, so that makes the conversion of water into snow, right. It gets frozen, right, it gets frozen, and as a result of that, when it gets frozen, after that when the precipitation occurs, in that case you will find instead of rainfall, it happens in the form of snowfall. Okay, frozen form of it falls back to the surface, right, that is called snowfall. Always it is found in those areas where the temperatures are generally very low. Clear? Or during the winters. Okay, now come to sleet. Now what is sleet? Sleet is combined form of some drops of water along with ice crystals. When it falls, that is called sleet. Okay, generally it is experienced in the temperate zone. Then come to the next one, that is hail. In Hindi you must have heard about ओले. ओले आप लोगों ने ज़रूर सुना होगा. Now this ओले, actually it is like a small stone, right? जैसे छोटे छोटे बर्फ के पीसेस जो होते हैं, या छोटे पत्थर के फॉर्म में आप देखो तो छोटे छोटे बर्फ के टुकड़े, उस तरह से जब गिरता है, दैट इज कॉल्ड हेल. ओके, आपको शायद पता होगा, ओले पड़ना. Now that ओले जो what we are talking of, that ओले is same as hail. Okay, hail, now how we can define it? Hail is nothing but it is small pieces of ice, right? It is also many times called by the in the way that these are small ice pellets, pellets. Okay, in that form, suppose big drop of water is there, okay, and all of a sudden the temperature of the atmosphere of the surrounding air falls down, okay, and sometimes what happens, the air current is responsible for it. For a moment of time, it will happen that the air current makes the small drops of water to go high, okay, along with it, because air currents always move vertically. So when the air currents take these particles up at higher altitude, again the temperature goes even low, right? So when it goes even lower than that, what will happen? Already it is there in the form of water drops, then it starts changing into ice, and that conversion of this water into ice, that forms this hail, right? And when it falls back to the earth's surface, that forms a type of precipitation then. Okay, so these are the 5 types of precipitation. Clear? Now the most common type of the precipitation we know very well is the rainfall. Okay, now rainfall can be of different types, right? The 3 main types of rainfall are given here. Now number 1 type of rainfall is called relief rainfall, which you can see in front of you here. Relief rainfall is basically, it has got the name after relief. Relief means landform. Okay, any high land is required for causing the relief rainfall, right? Now what happens in this case? Sometimes what happens, children, when the wind is blowing and it carries along with it a lot of moisture. Suppose the wind is coming from any water body, from over the water body. So what happens then? It takes some moisture from that water body. So it is heavily laden with moisture now, right? And as it gets an obstacle in the way, suppose in the form of any mountain or a hill which is there in its way, in the path of wind, right? So it obstructs the way of wind. Clear? Now what happens next? These winds along the slope of the mountain, these winds rise up. Okay, now as they rise up, they reach to that height where the water vapor, which is actually there in the air, it starts getting condensed, right? Condensation takes place at that height, and that leads to the formation of this cloud, you can see, and ultimately it causes rainfall on only one side of the mountain, right? Now the side of mountain which is actually facing the wind, okay, so that side is called as windward side, the side which is facing the wind, and just the rainfall is received on the windward side of the mountain. Clear? And as the wind goes up, right, after reaching the summit of the mountain or the hill, it reaches to the other side of it, okay, the other slope of it. Now as it reaches to the other slope, it starts moving down. Okay, now as it goes down, its capacity to cause rainfall decreases now. Okay, and its moisture content also gets less. So the result is what? The other side doesn't get any rain, or even if it gets some rain, so it is in very less quantity. Clear? And because of that the other side of the mountain, which is generally called by the name leeward side, okay, it is also called as rain shadow area. Okay, so the rainfall only is caused on the one side of it, which is called the windward side. Clear? Second type of rainfall is convectional rainfall. Now it is a common type of rainfall, especially in the equatorial region. Okay, now what happens there? In the equatorial region, it's a daily process, and what happens now, as the temperature during the daytime, the temperature goes high. Okay, so side by side evaporation also keep on going very high. Evaporation rate is very high, right? And as the evaporation rate is high, it makes more and more humidity level in the atmosphere, right? And this warm air, the warm air close to the earth's surface, when it rises up along with water vapor, it goes up. Now at a greater height, it starts changing into the cloud. That means it starts water vapor starts changing into water droplets, and that is actually the condensation going on at that height. Okay, and that makes when it gets very heavy to be there, right? Now it starts coming back to the earth's surface, and that causes rainfall. And this rainfall, because here no highland is responsible, no relief feature is responsible. Here what is responsible? Only the convectional current, right? The warm air is there close to the earth's surface, it rises up because it gets lighter in weight, it rises up. So along with warm air, water vapor goes up, right? At greater height, when it reaches, it gets cool, again it starts coming down, right? The moisture is left there only at great height, because that has now got started converting into the small drops of water. Okay, now this water vapor starts getting condensed at that height, and rest of the air getting cool, it starts coming down again. So this circulatory movement starts, and this is called convectional current. And as a result of convectional current, when the rainfall occurs, that is called convectional rainfall. And every day in the equatorial region, around 3 to 4 o'clock in the evening, in the afternoon, you will find the rainfall occurs. And that's why, it is commonly known by the name 4 o'clock shower. Okay, 4 o'clock shower also it is called, the convectional rainfall received in the equatorial region. Clear, children? Now come to the last one. Last is the cyclonic or frontal rainfall. First thing, cyclonic. Cyclonic rainfall is basically caused by the cyclones, right? Cyclones, you all know, whenever there is a circular movement of air, right, the wind, you can say, from outer high pressure area towards the center, that is cyclone, and with a high speed it moves in whirling form, right? And as it moves towards the center, it goes upside, right? And as it rises up at greater height, again when it reaches, it gets cool, it causes rainfall. So the rainfall specially caused in this condition by the cyclones, that is called by the name cyclonic rainfall. But when we talk about the frontal rainfall happens because of the two air masses, right? What happens now in that case? Two air masses, generally air masses are of, according to temperature, we call them as warm or hot air mass, and the other is cold air mass. Okay, so always there is a front, there is a surface, you can say cool surface, which separates the warm air mass and the cold air mass, right? That surface is called by the name front. Okay, and this front actually is the surface along which the condensation takes place. Okay, because the warm air above that comes in contact with the cold air below that surface. Okay, so what results then? The cloud formation take place as a result of condensation, and because of that, when the rainfall occurs in that limited area, that is called as frontal rainfall. Because the reason is what? The main reason behind it is the front. Okay, along the front, the condensation takes place and it causes rainfall, which is called then as frontal rainfall. Now children, this topic, the humidity topic, is complete, right? And I hope that every thing is very clear in this chapter, right? And as I leave, I must remind you here that don't forget to share this video with your friends and the classmates, right? And do subscribe the channel. And along with subscribing the channel, please press the bell icon also, so that If you if suppose any new video is uploaded, then you will get the notification related to that. Okay children, so that's all with this video. Bye.